because Shady McCoy returns to Philadelphia this Sunday as the Eagles play the Bills at Lincoln Financial Field. And now joining us is a former Bills player and, of course, played with them from 1986 to 1993 and is now the Bills color analyst on their radio station, and that is Mark Kelso. Mark, thanks for a few minutes. How are you?
I'm good, guys. How you doing in Philly today? The city of brotherly love, huh?
Yeah, well, it could be a little bit hateful on Sunday when LeSean McCoy comes back to town, although I never had a problem with Shady, and I hope they do give him a nice standing ovation. But I do want to ask you this, because my sister actually went to college at the university at Buffalo, and I always loved going up to Buffalo for football games and, of course, just exploring their university. And I always also love to get some wings, of course. So do you go to the Anchor Bar or Duff's?
Truth be told, neither. I go to the Bar Bill in East Aurora. That's the best wings in Western New York.
Really? That's interesting.
Hands down, buddy. But Duff's and the Anchor Bar are close behind that. I mean, they're a close second. But people say, where do you get good chicken wings in Buffalo? And I say any pizza place, because if they don't have good chicken wings, they're out of business quick.
That's right. All right, so let's get to this right now. LeSean McCoy, of course, when he got traded to Buffalo, he was a bit angry, and he had the whole comments about the race with everything with Chip Kelly, how he got rid of all the good black players. He was on a radio station here in Philadelphia yesterday and really didn't fall for the bait in answering that question. So what has Shady just been saying about coming back to Philadelphia this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in town, so I don't know all the things he's been saying about that, but he certainly has been nothing but positive for the Bills. I think they deflect attention to their teammates, and he's one of those guys who tends to do that and deflect the attention that he's receiving he's been running really well of late and deflecting a lot of that attention to the offensive line. But I mean, people say things when they're upset, and it's an emotional situation. He had a lot of great teammates I know he's talked about in Philadelphia, and when things don't unfold the way you planned for them to unfold, there's a lot of frustration, and you say things certainly that are probably not accurate, but just evident of the passion you have for the city and for the team, and the fact that you're upset that you're leaving that situation. But I think things have begun to unfold the way he thought in Buffalo, and the offensive line has come together. Although of late they still sustained some injuries and have guys that stepped up last week particularly, and he's been running with the level of proficiency and excellence that I think he's become accustomed to, and really doing a nice job.
The guy that was thought to replace Shady McCoy was DeMarco Murray, and DeMarco Murray just hasn't worked here. I don't think he fits Chip Kelly's scheme, and now he's starting to see less touches as they augment the number of touches going the way of Ryan Matthews, who should return this week, and, of course, Darren Sproles. You saw what he was able to do against the Pats last week, and I'm still confused why Chip Kelly decided to trade away LeSean McCoy. I know he got back Kiko Alonso, but to me, I still think he made a big mistake. Why do you think that Chip Kelly decided to trade away LeSean McCoy when he did?
Yeah, guys, I'm not going to pretend to get in Chip Kelly's head. He has his reasons, I think, the way he wants his club to be constructed. And Kiko Alonso was an outstanding player for the Bills' his rookie year, and arguably he and Sheldon Richardson had the two best defensive years for rookies in the league, and Sheldon Richardson ultimately ended up winning that Rookie of the Year award, and Kiko Alonso would have been a worthy recipient as well. And if he's healthy, I think he's an outstanding linebacker, and that was a big loss for the Bills. But they didn't need linebacker help at the time, and they need somebody who can run the football. And I think that's why I think the Bills were aggressive in trying to achieve that situation, and willing to give up a quality player for a quality player in return for an area of need. And I think that's exactly what they did. So I mean, all coaches are different. They're trying to construct their team. I mean, I always believe that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and I think that probably is the philosophy that Chip Kelly has, and he's trying to construct his team so that he has a collection of players not only that have outstanding talent, but they complement each other. Because you can have a collection of really, really good talent, but if they don't complement each other, and if they don't have great chemistry together, then you're not going to achieve all the goals that you set for yourself. So I mean, that's probably what they're doing, is just trying to put the right puzzle pieces together to have the perfect fit in Philadelphia.
We're talking to former Bills safety and current color analyst for the Buffalo Bills radio network, WGR 550, Mark Kelso. And Mark, as the college football season is ending currently, there are a lot of different guys who are trying to make that next jump, a lot of senior players. You were drafted in the 10th round in the 1985 draft. The 10th round doesn't even exist anymore. You played your college ball at William & Mary, a smaller school. What would you say to some of those guys who are trying to make the next level but aren't exactly on the boards right now to be drafted?
Yeah, I mean, there's an awful lot of free agents that have opportunities in this league, and you don't have the continuity that you used to have when I played, certainly. And you're right. Thanks for pointing that out. There's not even 10 rounds anymore. So and I sat around for a long time that day waiting for someone to call, and I said, "This is ridiculous. I don't need to wait for this. Let's go work out." And I went and worked out, and like 10:30 at 11 o'clock at night, I think, is when the Eagles called. And I enjoyed that experience. I mean, and the Hilton where I lived for a couple months over there by the George Washington Bridge isn't even in existence anymore. But I would walk to the stadium every day and work out and enjoyed that. But there was some transition going on then too, because who was the coach then? It was the Swamp Fox. Yeah, I think he was the coach, and Fred Bruni was coaching defensive backs, who had a great career too. So I enjoyed my time there. Got to kind of rub shoulders with a lot of great guys, and Andre Waters and Wes Hopkins and Ray Ellis and Roy Nell Young, and those guys were playing the backfield. So I really enjoyed that. But if you're a good player, I mean, you just have to go out and if you're afforded the opportunity to end up in an NFL camp, and you just take advantage of it, and you just have to study and prepare and make sure that you play at your best when you have opportunities, because a typical rookie has probably 8 or 9 opportunities to make plays in the preseason, unless they're a really high pick, because they're investing so much money in them early that they typically will keep them around for a couple of years at least to see if they realize their expectations. But if you're a young rookie, a free agent, or a lower round draft pick, you have, like I said, you have 8 or 9 opportunities to make plays in the preseason. If you make 5 or 6 of them, then you have a chance to stick. And if you only make 2 or 3, you don't have that opportunity. But there's an awful lot of players that don't make it, that have outstanding college careers and are outstanding athletes. And if you're on any NFL roster, you have a lot of quality there, and you've had a lot of growth with coaches investing in you over the course of your career as well, so that you can reach that level.
Now, gearing up for this weekend's game, as you mentioned on your draft day, you got a call from the Philadelphia Eagles, but you spent your entire career, I should say, with the Buffalo Bills. So how'd you end up from being from the land of cheesesteaks and ending up to being surrounded by some good chicken wings and beef on weck in Buffalo?
Yeah, well, I had some good film put together. The one thing that Philadelphia afforded me the opportunity was to play in the preseason, and like I said, I had opportunities to make some plays, and I made a number of them, and then you had film out there that other teams were kind of looking to enhance their roster. And I can remember going to a game that season after I had been released by the Eagles. I went to a late game in the year for the Bills, and they were playing the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and I went to that game, and I came home from that game, and my grandfather had known. He said he knew I was considering signing with the Bills, and when I came home from the game, the Bills had lost that game after being up 21-0, and he said, well, what are you going to do, Mark? Are you going to sign with the Bills, or are you going to sign with somebody else? I said, oh, no, I'm going to sign with the Bills. He said, how come? I said, because they are so bad. If I don't make that club, I cannot make any club in the NFL. So I had an opportunity then to go to Buffalo, and they had some players that I was the beneficiary of their mentorship, players that had been there for a number of years, but they were looking to turn their roster over, and then Bill Polian took the general manager job, and then we really turned the roster over as well. And I was just fortunate enough to play with some all-time greats, and we had a really good thing going for a number of years, in part because we had outstanding team chemistry, and having guys of character and guys that cared about a team-first attitude were some of the hallmarks of a Bill Polian club that he put together.
Well, it certainly seems like it chose the right team, because that was a quick turnaround in Buffalo. You got to play in multiple Super Bowls. But for you personally, you were well known for wearing a pro cap on your helmet, which was used to reduce the risk of concussions. Did any of your teammates follow suit after that?
The whole concussion issue is a quagmire, and there's a lot of puzzle pieces to that puzzle as well. And one component certainly would be better head protection. I think head protection has gotten better over the years. It certainly hasn't kept pace with the seriousness of the problem or the volume of the problem. But some of my teammates wore that that cap if they had specific episodes, and maybe in a week that they came back from a previous injury the week prior, they may have put the cap on, but no one wore it for an extended period of time on the team. And there are a couple of guys around the league, Steve Wallace for the 49ers and Randy Dixon for the Indianapolis Colts, wore it extensively through their careers, both of them offensive linemen. But there's no question in my mind that technology afforded me the opportunity to play 4 or 5 additional years that I would not have had that opportunity had I not had been the beneficiary of that technology. I'm still heavily involved in that stuff. I do think helmet technology has improved, but like I said earlier, it has not kept pace with the seriousness, or the number of problems that continue to exist on a weekly basis. So we got to keep moving forward, keep doing the right things. There's a lot of good initiatives. The Heads Up Football initiative is really good. The awareness situation is really good. The targeting rules, anything that protects both the hitter and the hittee is a good thing in my mind.
So we're just taking a look and going with that a step further, because every year I go down to Radio Row for the Super Bowl, and we talk with a bunch of players that have unfortunately now suffering from playing in the NFL. And you take a look at it, how the game is starting to change a bit. You had the whole incident with Rob Gronkowski where he got targeted at the knees, and people are starting to say, hey, maybe some players would rather get targeted at the head than the knees. So you're fine with the way that the game is moving right now in terms of player safety?
Well, I don't know if I'm fine with it. I mean, I think the more aggressive they can be with player safety, the better it is. I mean, I'm a proponent of a lot of things. Like I said, the concussion issue in particular is a multi-piece puzzle, I should say, and there's a lot of components to that. I mean, to protect your head, you need to do a lot of things. I mean, it's about good awareness and proper diagnosis of injuries. It's about proper skill development. It's about equipment safety. It's about rules changes that are going to help to engage the safety of players at the same time. So there's a lot of things, and anything that they do to rewrite the rule book that's going to help player safety, in my mind, is a good thing. There's still a lot of things that they need to do. I don't think it's difficult, quite frankly, for a player, a defensive back, and to change his tackling techniques so that they don't use their helmet as a weapon, and they don't target somebody, and they don't try to hit somebody and when they're not looking, and those blindside hits. So I think there's a lot of those things. I do think there's still way too much, with guys going down to the knees or even below the knees. I mean, I typically would try to hit a guy with my shoulder in the thigh or at the hip area and try to roll the player down. So you're not trying to go down on a player's legs. You respect the tradition of the game. You respect your opponent, and you play the game as hard as you possibly can, but wanting those guys to leave the game injury-free as well. So even on Gronkowski, there's no way I would go to his knees. I might go down to his thigh and try to roll him down, but I'm not going to go down and try to just take out his knees in that situation. So I think the game continues to evolve. I think quite frankly, we need to slow the game down just a little bit and play guys on surfaces that's going to make it just a hair slower as opposed to trying to speed the game up, and that helps create protection as well. And then you have the whole manufacturing aspect of how shoulder pads are built and helmets are built and those things to create the most protective situation. I mean, the game can be played safely and successfully at the same time, and I think that's what everyone's trying to achieve.
I know it's another topic of conversation, but something that I think that the league could also improve is the rule book, because right now the rule book is way too complicated, and the referees are having one of the worst years that I've ever seen in the sport. How do you think the refs can get better? What do you think the NFL could do to make sure that there's a better product on the field? Because I still don't get pass interference whatsoever.
There's a lot of subjectivity, isn't there? But if you have a guy that played the game, maybe this officiating, he's going to let a little bit more contact go, and if you have somebody that hasn't, it's going to be a little more the letter of the rule. And there are a lot of rules that change, and they change because of circumstances that happen in a game situation that require change. So I think the officials, by and large, do a very effective job. It seems like there's been a lot more penalties this year. I don't know. I haven't looked at the statistics to see if that's a valid statement or not, but I do think the officials do a good job for what they have to do. I mean, it's a violent game. It's an exceptionally fast game, and they've got to make calls in a split second. And the rule book again continues to evolve. So sometimes you don't know those rules. I mean, even with me, I know that the rule is linemen can be downfield or can't be downfield if the ball is caught behind the line of scrimmage, right? And I see guys downfield all the time when the ball's caught behind the line of scrimmage, and they don't call ineligible receiver downfield, and then they say, well, that's because it's when the ball leaves the quarterback's hand. Well, how can a lineman be downfield before it leaves his hand if it's a screen or something? It typically doesn't happen. So there's rules like that. There are other rules that I still think need to evolve. Sometimes I think the quarterback, you're trying to protect that player, and rightly so, because they're a big component of a healthy offensive performance by whatever team's playing on the field that day. But you can't allow the quarterback to run and then slide at the very last second. And players, they don't know if the quarterback's going to slide, and the quarterback's wrapped up, and you can't throw the quarterback to the ground, because then you're going to draw a flag for unsportsmanlike conduct. But then the quarterback, as he's falling to the ground, can throw the football away and still preserve that down again and not end up with intentional grounding or not end up with a sack. So there are still ways that the game needs to evolve. I wouldn't be opposed, quite frankly, to adding at least one additional official so that they can divide responsibilities and become a little bit more specific in what they have to look for, and then it would reduce some responsibilities of the crew that's already on the field.
Wrapping up with Mark Kelso, who joins us right now. Eagles play the Bills on Sunday. Rex Ryan, first year in Buffalo, obviously comes over from the Jets, where he had some success, get into 2 AFC championship games. But still, with Rex, I thought the falling out in New York was his offense just wasn't producing. And I know he's a defensive-minded coach. But have you been satisfied with the job that Rex has done so far in Buffalo?
Well, I mean, he has a lot of moving parts, and he has a real collection of talented athletes that have to learn how to play together. And there are a couple key phases or places in the course of a game where that needs to occur. One is the offensive line. There's been a lot of fluctuation along that offensive line, and you cannot have a good running game unless you have a really functional offensive line and quite frankly, a tight end or a couple tight ends that can block, and receiving core that likes to block as well. And that's finally coming together now after they've had an opportunity to play together. But none of these players had played together, and you can't understate the value of that, being in the same building and understanding the system completely and understanding what the strengths and weaknesses are of the guys beside you. And then defensively, same thing. They try to tweak things and change things. And I think almost the entire year has been, well, where are we at our best defensively? And I think they found their sweet spot a couple times against New England a couple weeks ago. Even in a loss, I think they found it. They pretty much found it last week against Houston. Were able to do some things really effectively defensively, but they haven't had consistency, in part because of the injuries and in part because everybody's trying to learn a system and then get comfortable with the system and then just play it seamlessly and without thinking about it. And sometimes I think there's a little too much thinking that goes on. And when you're thinking, then you're half a step slow and you don't make the play that you're intending to make. So, I mean, I think things have gone well. He is an engaging guy to talk to. He's great to the media. I've met with him frequently and talked football with him, and he is, we have great conversations, and he's very respectful when you're in a one-on-one situation. He never sells out his players. He would never say a word about a player, even if a player is disgruntled or makes a comment about what they did during the game or what the coaches did. He will never single that player out in the media, and I think players love that about him. And he has exceptional optimism going into a game. I mean, he goes into a game thinking that if they do the right things, they can win every football game. And I think that's exactly the way the head coach should be. And I do think that a component of his team, he believes, is guys who are going to do the right thing on and off the field, and that continues to be a part. And I think that's been an element of their success again this year as well. So I think it's been a good job this first year. Let's see how the rest of the season plays out, because these next 4 games will make the difference between a really good season and a mediocre season.
Now, before we let you run, I have a lot of friends that are both Giants and Bills fans, a lot of friends and family, and you had tremendous teams going to 4 straight Super Bowls, but a lot of those Bill fans always wonder what the player said to Scott Norwood after he missed that field goal wide right. What did you say to him after the game, or did you say anything to him?
He's my roommate. So, in those days, the guys didn't have single rooms. We roomed together with one of our teammates, and he was my roommate. And we said the same thing to him that we said on the podium after the game, because I was one of those guys on the podium that said, you know what, it was a play that he did not convert, and there were a number of plays that other people did not convert, myself included. I missed a tackle on Ingram on a long 3rd down because we had called a defense and we didn't have everybody drop into the right positions, and I came try to get him, and and he left me grasping for air, and then he picked up 3 or 4 extra yards that gave him the opportunity for a first down, and ultimately ended up in a field goal, which was the margin of victory. So, I made mistakes. Everybody else made mistakes. Unfortunately, his was a little bit more noticeable because it was the only play that was going on at the time, and sometimes you don't notice those other mistakes. He won an awful lot of games for us, so it hurt, but it hurt him as much or more than it hurt anybody in Buffalo or anybody on our team. So it was an opportunity to grow from it and learn from it, and then have the resiliency to try to go back again, which we were able to do, but never reached our ultimate goal. But I mean, you can't win it if you're not there. So you keep trying and striving, and it's an arduous task. And I have a lot of respect for those guys who have made it and just made it, period, and then have made it and come out victorious.
Mark, we appreciate your insight. Enjoy Philly this weekend. Thanks for a few minutes today.
Yeah, I look forward to it, guys. Yeah, have a great day.